I got a 2012 Subaru WRX engine in here. I've done some work on it. I got some YouTube videos on it. And yes, I'm going to call this an engine and not a motor. What's the difference? Motor. Electric. Engine. Gas. Motor. Engine. That's a pet peeve of mine when people call these motors all the time. It's like, dude, it's not a motor. Motors are electric. But anyways, this guy, this is how I got this engine like this. He had this thing under warranty, and he brought it to the dealer because he heard a noise. It's obviously a rod knock. I showed you that. And they got an approval to tear it down from the kid, and they called this a tear down. They took the oil pan off, which is right there, oil pan, windage tray, pickup. They took the front covers off, the intake manifold. They took the flywheel off and clutch for what reason I didn't know, to tell him that he had a rod knock, and they charged him, I think over $2,000, and they called this a teardown. And he had to pay that money. Just he got like a deal. They gave him like $500 off. I don't know exactly how much it was. It was way too much money for these guys to tell him he had a rod knock. And they did all this work, and they told him he had to pay for it. And they told him his warranty was void after they tore it down this far because he had aftermarket exhaust on it. Totally ripped the kid off. Dealership in Minnesota, WRX Subaru dealership. I told him he should do something about it and talk to people. Apparently he can't get money out of them for being stupid. They didn't even give him an invoice. I told him I wanted to look at the invoice. He says they didn't give him one. And that's a red flag right there. They just ripped the kid off. Yeah, and they tore it down like this, and they said, yeah, it's going to be X amount of dollars for doing a tear down, which is BS. This isn't a tear down. And, you know, for the amount of money they charge them, they would have had to spend well over 12, 15 hours on this thing. I know I can get one of these things out and tear it down this far in 4 hours, maybe 5 tops. But anyways, I'm done complaining about all that stupid dealership rip-off con artist stuff. Maybe I get in trouble for saying that stuff, but I don't really care. So yeah, beware of these damn people. But anyways, I'm going to have to tear this thing apart and do a rebuild on it. First thing when you do a tear down, what you want to do is get something to turn the crankshaft with. I got a couple of little bolts here. You want to line up all your timing marks. There's marks here that line up, and there's marks on the cover and on the gears that line up, and there's a mark here and a mark here that lines up, so you know all 4 cams and the crankshaft's lined up. And when you after you zero it, you want to turn this, I'd say counterclockwise, because then you won't be unloading your tensioner, which is leaking and needs to be replaced. You want to turn this 1/8 of a turn. Anything to keep the piston off from top dead center. That's as far as I'm going to go. That should be far enough. Yeah, 1/8 of a turn, I mean. You want to turn it 1/8 of a turn. Because that'll keep the valves from hitting. You want to make sure that's right. Okay, now I'm going to try to spare you too many details and just tear this thing down at breakneck speeds. Breakneck. Those are really tight. Both of them bottom sprockets don't want to come off. They're going to strip. It's a common thing with these. Both of these cam bolts were ready to strip. I don't have much faith in this, but I'm going to try this anyways. I might have to do some major surgery. I got it. Still looks usable enough. This one might be less fun. We'll see. Yeah, this hole right here was a little smaller on this one. So all I could do is just that. It just relieves all the torque pressure on it, you know. What a bunch of crap. Fucking Subaru. Fuck you guys. Assholes. Okay. I wore out my 12mm socket from years of use, so I had to buy a new one of these. This crankshaft wouldn't turn inside the block for some reason. And I just laid it in here and the thing wouldn't turn by hand, which is wrong. So I took the thrust bearing out because there was no end play. Like the thrust bearing was locking it up. And I go turn this crankshaft and this is what I got. This crankshaft is no good. I'm going to send it out and he might have to buy a new one. It did not feel right at all. When you take the pistons out of here and the block's all assembled, you should be able to turn this by hand, and I couldn't do it. So, yeah, this crankshaft, there's something up with it.